Here we are at the inaugural Trash Talk podcast. I'm Andy Wines, joined by my good buddy, Casey Bubba Lawrence, coming to you from Dallas, Texas. I'm here from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Let's kick it off. Casey, what do you want to talk about today?
Well, I guess we're going to talk about some franchising, right? Why you shouldn't do it and the different options and what to look out for.
Yeah, no, that's So our background, let's talk a little bit. We were both part of a franchise system. We're both in the junk removal, waste industry, demolition world, and we both at some point in our career, going back to 2016, joined a veteran-based franchise organization, and we were successful within the organization. But since then, we've learned a lot about why to or not to franchise. So, Casey, talk a little bit about your background, your history. I'll jump in and interject, and then we'll talk about really the theory here of why not to franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. So about 6 years ago, my mom and I decided to buy into a junk removal franchise that was actually pretty new itself. Didn't really have a good history to go on, and they were probably in the same boat as we were. I mean, they were figuring shit out too. The issue was they had a great marketing plan that was to target military veterans. So that obviously they got our attention. But at the same time, it was very affordable to get in. The royalties were flat rate. So we kind of looked at like the more money we make, the more money we keep. Because at the time, when you're doing something new, the last thing you want to do is pour out a bunch of money for something that you're brand new at. And I think for us, that was kind of the key. It's affordable. We can do it without even financing. Honestly, if you want to finance, you could, but we didn't have that option at the time. So we started it with a truck and trailer. That was kind of their marketing thing. Like, hey, if you have a truck and a trailer, then you can do this business and make a lot of money. So, yeah, about 6 years ago, we started it, just me and a truck and a trailer, picking up junk from people's houses. And, what we got into was pretty cool because we learned a lot from the ground up, not learned from others at the time. There really wasn't any industry experts that we could turn to in the beginning. It was more of a, do this. This is the model. Even though we're on the other side of the country, do this and you'll make a bunch of money. So that's what we did. That's how we started out. But very soon, probably within the first 6 months, we figured out we should have done this ourselves. Like we didn't need to go the franchise route to do what we were doing. Yeah. So, I don't know if you want to name names of the the franchise I was a part of or anything, but it was
J-Dog Junk Removal.
J-Dog Junk Removal. Yeah, that was the franchise.
No, I'm not. Yeah, we're not going to sanitize shit.
Yeah, but so the franchise was, it was for newbies, man. It was for people that didn't know, and I get it. But what we learned really quick was, man, we could have saved a ton of money if we wanted to actually do junk removal. I think we were more into, let's get into a business and run it together. And it just happened to be junk removal because it seemed like someone in my background versus my mom's business background, it kind of would mesh, right? Like, hey, you don't really need to be a college educated motherfucker to pick up junk for a living. But at the same time, here's the model. That's kind of why we went with it.
Your background, you were military and then you were in the oil fields.
Right.
My background was I had been in junk removal. I'd worked for waste management. I had an industry knowledge, but a lack of understanding when it came to marketing. That's why it was attractive to me. And even going through franchises, you learn that, right? There's always those three buckets in life, right? There's the sometimes, the always, and the never, right? There's the always people will always work out. They're going to stick with the plan, right? And then there's the sometimes people and then the never people. It was pretty obvious to us the never people were hey, this is not going to work for them. I think where it failed was the sometimes people, right? The people like you and I, where it could have worked for, the challenge was the franchise did not move and progress, correct, or at the speed at which we did. And I remember I learned, about a year or two into franchising that, and I actually got into a pissing match with the franchisor at the time. They said, well, yeah, a lot of people after 2 or 3 years that, once we teach them everything, then they think they can do it on their own. And like you said, it was within 6 months. For me, it was within 90 fucking days because I had a background in the industry where I'm like, I went to training and I did some teaching. Felt like I already knew some shit before I started it. Certainly I learned things. There's no doubt about it. The challenge was once we got the ball rolling, they kept preventing me from moving forward, right? I got a visionary mindset. I pick a fucking destination. I started fucking going. Now the journey is where it, where the rubber meets the road, and the destination is going to fucking change. It's like you see the mountain range, you're going that fucking way. Issue I had was it was a constant. They couldn't see where the fuck I was going because they weren't in my boots. They didn't know what things were like in Milwaukee or in Dallas, and this kept preventing me from going forward and looking back at their asses, and that's not going to progress.
Well, plus, I think also they realized they weren't interested in where you were going because they just wanted to sell the franchise.
Correct. They wanted to sell more. They want everyone to go back to the mothership to sell more franchises. They had no fucking idea. And instead of embracing guys like you and I that were doing different things or understanding it to push themselves to think differently, they chose not to do that. Now, I get it. From a franchise model, you have to have something that's systematic and repeatable, but they fucking didn't. They didn't. And the challenge with junk removal or a lot of these businesses that have a low barrier to entry is they might have the marketing, but that's about it. I talked to a guy earlier today. I was doing some consulting. He wants to start a mobile detailing business. And he's like, well, how do I start that? I said, you got $500? And he goes, yeah. I said, okay, $500. What are you going to spend it on? I broke it down for him, Barney style. I said, you're going to spend $130 to register your LLC, spend $120 on business cards and some printed shit, and spend $250 on the tools and equipment you need to clean cars. Right? Buy the nice rags, buy the this, buy the whatever. Buy what you need. $500. All right? And he goes, what do I call my detailing business? I said, you call it Ryan's fucking detailing. Ryan's mobile detailing. Because at some point in the future, you can always go DBA, this catchy fucking name. I said, but that's it. Like, same with you. If you would have just gone out and started hauling fucking junk, you wouldn't have needed a fucking name. Right? You could have been fucking Casey's mom and son, right? Yeah. Hauling junk, and you would have figured out some shit. Yeah. And you could have read a book or two or gone on a couple of YouTube videos and figured it out. But like you said, there's a lack in this industry, and one of the reasons why you and I have decided to do this podcast, there is a lack of subject matter expert in the junk removal world. It's a last I checked, it was like $6.5 billion industry, and there's not a that's the fucking guy.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying we are by any means, but fuck, let's be a resource at least for those people that want to get into demolition, waste removal, junk removal, and not like the big boys, the waste managements of the world. They have their place, certainly, but the guys that are grinding in and day out and want to cut, a 6-figure salary that works for them, it works, it aligns with their life.
I feel like also the junk removal industry, how we're doing it, the only way to be successful, like actually successful, is if you are the franchisor. Because within the franchise, you still have a cap. You have location cap. You have marketing cap. Because it's like, hey, look, ultimately, I'm going to do all this work, and my name's still not on the fucking truck. So it's like, I'm not really doing anything to further my brand. I'm just spinning my tires. And at the same time, with you and I, at least, we hit numbers that weren't ever hit before during the time that they were hit. So we didn't even, there was no one available to help us at that point because they're like, well, we don't know because, A, B, and C. But the issue was
uncharted territory. It was uncharted territory for them.
And they never looked at it because, once again, they weren't trying to grow the companies. They were selling. So if you're like, hey, if you grow, I benefit, absolutely, I'm going to be in there helping you grow. But that's the thing is they weren't. And for guys like you and I, we weren't trying to just be in a truck for the rest of our lives. And
no, I think that's a lot of franchises comes down to, hey, we'll give you the marketing, we'll give you some operations playbook, and in a lot of ways, you're just buying a fucking job. I know I talk to other guys that are in the IT world or HVAC, some of these industries where there's nothing proprietary that these franchisors have, and they're because of it. Okay, you get the playbook, you get the marketing. You just bought yourself a fucking job. Yeah. That's what you have. Now, some of them, if you have something proprietary, right, you have proprietary software, you have proprietary equipment, you got a proprietary relationship or national accounts or a customer list. You have something fucking proprietary. Yeah. I know the guys from Smash My Trash and The Crusher, right? They're both in this industry. They have a big fucking machine that comes in and smashes dumpsters. Well, that piece of equipment is $300,000. You know, I got to imagine it was $1 million or so to design it. Like, that's fucking proprietary. Like, you know, your diesel trucks and dump trailers and me with my gas, you know, trucks and utility trailers, nothing fucking proprietary there.
No.
You know, you look at some industries like the restoration business, they got some proprietary relationships. They got proprietary relationships with the insurance companies, or they got the fucking high-speed software that knows the goddamn hurricane's going to hit, and they can all band together. What's that?
Chick-fil-A is a third-party training source. They get hired.
Oh, yeah. Well, Chick-fil-A.
You know?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, you know, McDonald's. Yeah, McDonald's is real estate, and they got the burgers, right? Chick-fil-A has a fucking mindset in the chicken sandwiches, and they have a phenomenal vetting process. You know, that's the other thing that you and I have seen in the franchise we were part of, and other franchises, is lack of vetting. It is, oh, you got the $40,000, cool. Yeah. We'll take your $40,000 and go forth and prosper.
Yeah,
you know, if you fuck up, fine, we'll just sell it to somebody else when you fail.
No, if you fuck up, what we'll do is we'll offer you a financing option so you can take out a loan and keep digging yourself a deeper hole. You know,
and at no point solve the immediate problem, which is how to run your business better, how to get more sales, how to be more efficient. It's you know, borderline predatory tactics of, hey, we're going to sell you all this shit, we're going to finance it for you, and then you're stuck with it. I mean, I got out as the financing became available or whatever it was, and I never financed through them. I financed through friends and family. Well, my parents loaned me $25,000, and certainly I paid them back. Like, don't get me wrong, I made good money in that model, but I made good money because I fucking made good money.
That's
just like you made good money.
Difference. We made good money because we made good money, and the issue was, no matter how much money we made, it didn't change the fact that when someone else comes around the corner and like, hey, I got one of these franchises, and we don't know how come we can't do what you're doing? Well, here's why: because it's not the model. Like we did this. The model is right here. I'm not saying it's wrong or right, but for what we were trying to do, it was completely wrong. What we were actually trying to do was grow, and it's not for growth. It is for a truck and trailer. The same guy who owns it is doing the work. That's it.
Yeah, you're paying for a fucking logo, which, if you look at from a licensing agreement, probably could have worked if you said, hey, here's the fucking logo, go forth and prosper. But as soon as you start taking that away from the entrepreneur and the fucking business owner, you're killing their spirit. You're killing the entrepreneurial idea of, I'm in charge of my fucking destiny. You know, even the military, I'm going to just fire, because what works in fucking training, what works in fucking garrison doesn't work downrange. And everybody's downrange is different, right? I've been to Iraq. You've been to Afghanistan and Iraq. You know, TTPs, your tactics, techniques, and procedures change every time you go outside the fucking wire. It changes every time you're in new terrain. It's going to change.
We trained how to cross open fields and wedge formation for Iraq. In Afghanistan, we were single file.
There you go.
And at the same time, in this market or this industry, for instance, what was a huge separator for me was construction cleanup and outdoor cleanup, like brush, stone, brick, that kind of shit. You didn't even see it that much because your market is a complete.
I lost my ass doing it. Yeah, I lost my ass doing it.
I mean, that's the thing is, down here, construction is huge in Texas. Up there, it's more of reconstruction, renovations. At the same time, I could come down here and do the same job you did, and it's half the price.
Yeah.
And vice versa. But that's the thing is, their model doesn't teach you that. Their model is, well, have a landscape trailer. You don't need a dump trailer. And it's crazy how quick that changed. Because then they're like, you should get a dump trailer. But it's because they were learning at the same time, but they didn't want to be transparent about that.
Yeah, it's different. You know, like 7-Eleven has a really good FAC, Franchise Advisory Council, where their owners get together and they're like, hey, this is what's working, right? Like, this fucking flavor of goddamn slushy works. We want more of this shit. Or, you know, we want a better pricing on this. Like, so then 7-Eleven will go and negotiate pricing for them on certain SKUs because they have so much buying power. And the franchisor listens to the franchisee, right? You have to have a cut and dry fucking model like Chick-fil-A where it fucking works everywhere, right?
Everywhere.
Right? Here's your fucking recipe. Here's a chicken sandwich, right? Be nice to everybody. Sunday's the fucking Lord's Day. This fucking works. They proved it out over decades. It fucking works. Or like 7-Eleven, where it's like, hey, we got something that works, right? Even 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven's an interesting story, right? The reason why it's called 7-Eleven was because they were open from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. And that was their niche at the time. They were a convenience store that was open longer than any other convenience store.
Right.
And then there was a convenience store, I can't recall if I think it was in Texas or Florida, somewhere down south. There was a football game, and the convenience store stayed open after 11 p.m. And they're like, they stay open until like 2, 3 in the morning. They're like, oh, fuck. Why don't we just run 24/7?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we stay open? Right. So the name 7-Eleven stuck, but it stood for convenience, right? They had the things you needed. I think they sold ice at first. Before it was 7-Eleven, I think they sold ice. Well, the point is they evolved and they listened to what their customers were saying. They were listening to their franchisees and they adapted. At the end of the day, the logo is the fucking logo. I've been in several 7-Elevens, right, all over the country. Some have gas, some didn't. I didn't know there was 7-Elevens without gas until I got out of Wisconsin.
They all even smell the same.
No, they don't.
They all smell the same.
Yeah. Mind-boggling, right? But you walk in, you got the fucking slushy machine, you got the couple coolers, and you go to a 7-Eleven, you know what they got for the most part. And so that's interesting too when you look at other franchises, why they were successful. When you look at franchises from a success rate, the national average is 5%, right? 5% of franchises are going to fail. And there's a lot of reasons. The right people, the right investors, the right location, right? Those things. You can control some of those things during a vetting process, certainly. But 5% of franchises fail. When you look at some of these junk removal franchises or these service-based companies, you have 25, 30, or in our case, over 50% failure rate.
Yeah.
That's not fucking repeatable. You're setting people up for failure. What's that?
That's not considered turnkey.
It's not a fucking franchise.
Right. And at the other end of that is, well, why is it happening? Well, I'll tell you why. Franchise sounds great. It tells me there's a model that's been proven time and time and again, and all I have to do is pay you a down payment, and I can be part of your business. I can be part of your name and brand that's proven, and I know I will be successful as long as I do my job. And the issue is people think that going in, and that is exactly right. That's exactly what a franchise should be. The issue is it's not like that. And in junk removal, there's too many variables to consider that you're like, you can't, no matter who you are, I don't care. Look at California. What is gas looking like? $7 a gallon. Texas, we're at $4 for gas, not diesel, gas. And if you tell me that doesn't affect a small business that relies on transportation of vehicles, then you're out of your mind. That's why I remember the guy in San Diego was charging like $1,000 a fucking trailer, and we're over here charging $600, thinking it's high. But
because he had to. I
market.
I ran that business in San Diego, and the disposal fees, the rent for the business, because we couldn't park on the street. So just the location we had, right? But just the location, park the fucking truck just for like 8 parking spots was $500 a month. That's Wisconsin. You park where you want, or Texas, right? Y'all got wide open fucking spaces, So it wasn't repeatable, and you without knowing that on the boots on ground level, you will habitually set people up for failure.
Yeah,
and that was the issue.
Mm-hmm.
It was designed to fail, and then it failed. And instead of taking ownership and responsibility at the franchisor level, it was simpler. Well, this is an isolated incident. This is an isolated incident. This is Jesus. You can't have 50 fucking isolated instances, or you can't have a venture capitalist that comes in with millions of dollars and can't figure it the fuck out.
You know why? Because money doesn't fix those problems.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
Money and ideas don't fix the problem. Hard work fixes most problems. You got to get out there, roll your fucking sleeves up, get your fucking hands dirty, and figure it the fuck out. And then communicate, right? And then respect. Exactly. I was going to say, respect the fact that everybody's going to be fucking different. Because you and I had a lot of conversations very early when we were both figuring shit out.
Yeah.
And we realized, I'm not in the business of convincing you. You're not in the business of convincing me. We're in the business of understanding the governing reasons behind why things were happening. Because if you understood the governing reasons, right, like you could do a lot of brush. Fuck, I don't, because every municipality here in southeast Wisconsin 4, 5, 6 times a year. You can put your shit curbside and they take care of it. Plus, our brush doesn't grow the way that your brush, your shit grows 6 fucking feet a year, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Ours grows 6 inches.
Well,
whatever
storms too.
The case may be.
Like,
oh yeah,
the weather's different than yours.
Oh yeah, you have your storms that knock everything out. My case, I could go fucking snowplow.
Yeah,
I don't want to tie my fucking truck up.
Well, that's the other thing is that's a variable, and unfortunately, they don't want to. Now, I say franchises in general that we've seen in this line of work, that they don't want to look at the different variables because it takes time away from them growing their name. Now, 100%. Other people are like, well, you have. Oh, but what about Got Junk and Junk King? They look great. You know why? Because they control certain aspects of their franchise. They say, hey, look, this is the setup. This is the truck you will buy if you want to be in this. And this is
remember, there's a company called Junk Removal Authority that does marketing and ads for junk removal companies. And their opening line of their website, I think, says, unless you're 800 Got Junk, don't buy a fucking franchise.
Yeah.
We can teach you everything, right? There's also a book, I can't recall, I don't know if you read it. It's like a 100-page read anyways. It is How to Start a Six-Figure, $100,000 a year junk removal business. It is a skinny little 80-page book. It's like an hour and a half read, and it teaches you the same shit we learned.
Yeah.
Less the fucking logo. It's like, hey, pay your guy $12 an hour. Hey, this is the scrap that's worth sorting, and then donate. Donate what you can. Some basic ass shit.
Yeah.
I turned our business from a 700 square foot garage into a 27,000 square foot recycling facility.
Yeah.
And what worked at 700 feet also works at 27,000 feet. I just have more fucking room.
Well, now let's say you rewind. Sorry to interrupt. If you rewinded, let's say you go back to day one, would you start day one in your warehouse now? Your 27,000 square feet.
Fuck
Absolutely
no. I want to know what to use the fucking space for.
Exactly. That's the issue. Remember? Because the other thing that went with this franchise is, you may see other people like you, myself, we have setups, multiple trucks and trailers. I had a skid steer, right? The grapple bucket, but I also kept that thing going. I also had an acre yard. You didn't. You had a huge facility. But you didn't need an acre yard with a skid steer as much as I did. And you weren't going to just start out, hey, I'm going to start this company with $10,000 a month in overhead off the bat.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's idiocracy right there at its best. And
going with the guy I talked to today about starting his detail business, I said, hey, man, you can lose $500. After that, buy clean supplies as needed. He's like, oh, there's this tool that does this thing. I'm like, cool. Got it. Buy that when you can afford it.
Yeah.
Right? Can you clean my Jeep today with $500 worth of stuff that you got? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. Cool. He's like, I want to wrap my car. I'm like, cool. Go make enough money. Once you make enough money, I said, you don't have a brand name right now. Why do you want to fucking wrap your car? So that's a good point. Okay.
Put your face on it.
The thing is with franchising, right? Let's say there's 100 steps to learn in your first year, 100 fucking whatever, right? Yeah. Franchising is a fast way to get to step 10. But you still have to go 11 to a fucking 100. Yeah. And if you don't understand 1 through 10 because you went to a bullshit 1 week class, I'll make the argument you're going to fucking stumble. You and I understood the 10 or figured it out over time, but then we also figured out 11 through 100 in due time. When you buy a franchise and they only get you to fucking 10, you are going to stumble learning 11, 12, 13, 14 because you haven't learned how to learn. You got and now you got a bunch of fucking debt.
You don't know how to stumble either. You don't know how to get back up because no one's there telling you.
You think money's going to solve it all because you're like, well, I spent money to buy the fucking logo and the wrap and the training. Oh, more money should equal, more solutions.
Yeah.
I mean,
the biggest difference I would say between my company and your company, the biggest difference was probably, I couldn't tell you honestly, because everything was the basics. Maybe demolition. Maybe I did more demo, but as far as like services, it wasn't like I found a secret and you found a secret and that was how it worked. It's the same services, but it's also It's how you do it.
Service wise, we did things different, right? I did moving,
Yeah.
maybe tactically, right? And I also had the background doing it, but you had a strategic partner. You had, your mom and your stepdad more on the business, while I was the on the business guy. So I was definitely, I had to be the strategy and the on the business guy. So there was a lot of things different with our business.
Mm-hmm.
Even how we went about things, our operation software, to how we paid employees. But the point was, you and I kept a conversation going that I never once convinced you, my way was right and your way was wrong, or the other way. What it came down to was, hey, this is what I'm doing. What are your thoughts? And vice versa. And keeping that communication open is the key. And whether it's a franchise business or not, you have to continually do. I think one of the challenges when you start a franchise is you're like, oh, I went to the fucking training. I now know everything. I'm going to go back and wait for my fucking phone to ring.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you don't know dick. You don't know the start.
You'll get a phone call and it's going to be from that bank. Hey, your monthly payment's due.
Yeah.
But, for you, I remember when you came down and you came to our warehouse and you're like, hey, this is what I think. And you said, I'm going to give you this information for free and I'm going to go through the steps. What you choose to do with it is on you. And you know what?
Oh, yeah.
And we did it. We went through the steps. That's the key. We tried it. Now, after that, we were like, hey, Andy, this shit does not work at all for us. You know what? Cool. Let's figure something else out that does work. At the same time, if we never even tried it, we couldn't.
You don't learn anything.
That doesn't work.
Well, you brought up something I hate. I hate the word try.
Yeah.
I hate the word trying. It's all bullshit. Right? At the end of the day, I came down on my own dime and my own time after, hundreds of conversations with you to look at your setup. Because in teaching you learn and in seeing you grow, so seeing your setup, like, oh, this is a fucking interesting way of doing it. And yeah, I challenged you and your guys. Hey, this is, and again, I felt very strongly about, I said, hey, I'm not going to I think this will work. No, here's what I recommend. Yeah. And we rolled up our sleeve, we moved things around. And even if you would have kept 50% of the shit or 25% of the shit, of whatever percent you kept, it was the fact you learned and you questioned and you went through that fucking process. Because if you could justify all the decisions, a lot of times you make decisions with the information you have and then you don't reevaluate it later in life. Well, now when you reevaluate it, you have more information. And even if more information is the second person questioning you. Yeah. And with you, we went in your warehouse and we reshaped your warehouse. And it was just challenging you to think differently about your process. Yeah. And hey, does this fucking make sense? Mm-hmm. And if you couldn't, you're like, oh, yeah, no, it doesn't fucking make sense. Okay, well, let's do different, right? Go back against the word fucking try. Let's do different and see what happens.
Yeah.
Right? Even, I hate the word like mistake, right? No, it wasn't a mistake. We did something different and it either works or it doesn't fucking work. It really is that simple.
That's the key. And that's also cool because, like, I remember when you came down, I think probably 75% of what you showed us, we kept. And
whatever it was. Yeah.
Like the what we didn't keep, it was mainly probably due to manpower, as in it's a little different because it requires me or someone not getting paid to do a lot of this stuff on this side.
Yeah.
As far as stripping wire, whatever. But at the same time, I remember when we switched shops, I had a warehouse just for recycling, just designated for recycling. And then I had a yard. And this is where you never had, because you never needed it. I had a yard where I recycled brush, rock, brick, concrete, tires. Well,
Yeah, I mean, the biggest challenge we have there in Wisconsin, we got fucking snow 6 months of the year. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make good economic sense for me to tie up, a big spot of my I have 2 acres here on this property. Mm-hmm. Doesn't pay for me to tie up an acre where I can only really access one half of the year.
Well, and one thing we added later on, probably year 3, we stopped going to the landfill. We started looking at the numbers and we're saying, man, I'm having a crew go out of their way and I'm killing 2.5 to 3, sometimes more hours of no production time just to spend money and throw shit away. Yep. How do we get them to come to us? Now we had the space and we figured, well, what are we paying per ton going to the landfill versus let's just put 240s in our yard and when those get full, we'll have them yanked. And we got a better rate that way.
Well, it's just fucking math. I know a lot of people want to argue with me when it comes to business. I don't care if you're fucking hauling junk or making fucking cookies. It's just math.
It is.
It comes down to the fucking math, right? And you always have to factor, and you hit this on the head, right? It's just time and money. That's all it is, right? That is what business is. And I'll make the argument that's what life is a lot of times, right? It's just time and money. Oh, this last week I went to a concert on Thursday last week. One of my favorite bands in the area, Gaelic Storm. I guess I shouldn't say the area. They're from Chicago, but they travel nationwide, called Gaelic Storm. Anyways, I get there, and they only had one merch guy, a lady, merch woman. And I found out they're like, oh, yeah, they need a second person to help in merch. So, all right, I jumped in. I started helping merch. I don't give a fuck, right? I can sell a T-shirt for $35. It's on Square. We use Square here in our building for different things. So I'm like, okay, I'm minimally qualified to do this. I started doing it. And then running the tour manager later, he's like, hey, man, I really want to buy you a beer. Really appreciate you helping out the band. I was like, I don't care. It's just money. And he looked at me like I had a dick growing on my forehead. I'm like, it's just money. I was like, I got this. He's like, no, I want to buy. I was like, hey, man, tell you what. I was like, ask the band if I can hang out with them later. That means more to me than you fucking buying me a beer, right? What I was saying to him is I have more money right now and you have an excess of time with the band to potentially hang out with the band. Now, it didn't work out, but he looked at me like I was crazy. I literally said to him, I was like, it's just money. Once I had that transformation as a business owner, it's just money, right? Everything opened up. But look at you. It's like, man, I don't want to get a 40-yarder because I got to drive my trucks there and da-da-da. But as soon as you're like, hold on, it's just fucking money. How do I maximize the fucking money? And your realization in that case was, you know what? My time is worth more than the money I'll spend.
Yeah.
So now if you're investing your time, you're spending money in an expense. It's a fucking expense, right? Let's not split hairs. But now you can invest more time into more projects or giving your guys fucking time off so they're more well rested the next day. Whatever that is, right? But it's when you're first starting a business, your concept of time and money is fucked. Right? You have all the time in the world and no money.
That's the thing is you don't know where they cross, right? Because you think you don't in your head you're not thinking time is money. You're thinking money is money and time is time. I got plenty of time.
Yeah.
If I own the business and I do all the jobs, I'm free. That's the most fucked up thing because you're not free. You're actually the most important and the most paid person on the team at that point because that's the issue. When you're in that truck, you can say, like, I hate when people are like, how much is your time worth? I hate it because you can't put a number on your time. Because I
can.
If
you, I can.
Think about this one. Think about this.
No, fuck you. I'm going to argue with that. I am worth $250 an hour all day for my company. I am because I qualified it. That's what I'm worth.
Let me ask you a question. In all honesty, this is why I don't like that question. If you're on your deathbed and they're like, Andy, I'm going to give you two options. I'm going to either give you 2 more hours to live or you can have $500 right now. You're going to be like,
give me my 2 fucking hours. Give me my 2 fucking hours.
Well, that's the thing is, so for me, people are like, what's your time worth? Well, I'm like, well, doing what? Because I would rather spend hours talking to someone like this and not get any because
but I know what I'm worth to the company, right? And I also know what correct. Now, what is my time worth to me? Oh, freedom. I don't give a fuck. I will take conversations like this. I will take time with my daughter. I'll take all that shit over money.
And that's
but I had to get there.
What led me out of J-Dog, of the franchise, because I have a 4-year-old son. I got one on the way, and my wife and I, she stuck with me through all that bullshit. She knows. Hell, at one point, she worked with us. She saw it from the inside out. And no matter what, for some reason, the more I gave, the less I took away. And I don't understand. Like, at first, you're just like, I don't understand it. But then it's because, oh, wait a minute. Because when I'm doing the things, I'm doing the things I don't need to be doing. Right? Yep. So when I got crews out doing things and I'm out talking to people, spreading the good word, that's what I should be doing. Or if I'm out in the office and I'm saying, how can I save $80,000 this year? Oh, well, you know what? Looks like our disposal is the biggest bill we have. And they don't tell you, by the way, that disposal, just like payroll, if it's not going up, you're failing. Right?
Yep.
Unless you're recycling and donating everything. Yeah. But that was the biggest factor for me. I wanted more time. The money, like you said, it's just it is what it is. Money is money.
Right. Time. You could have figured it out. You could have figured that out within the model. I mean, you didn't get out of J-Dog because of that model. You were able to sell and you freed up your time. I said that from day one. I said, I started the business June 1st of 16 for all intents and purposes. And I told my brother, hey, within 5 years, this business has to run 100% without me. That was the plan. Yeah. Now we got it there within 18 months because I had that in my mind from day one. I don't want to be in this business. I don't want to be in that business. I want to own it. I want to oversee it. I want to influence it, but I don't want to be doing it. Even this morning, Monday morning, I had planned on coming in. I didn't sleep well last night. I got up at 6. I texted my operations person, hey, I'm not going to be there this morning. She's like, all right, sounds good. But it wasn't like a fucking panic. It was just it was a polite gesture to let her know I'm not going to be there. But the processes are already in place or have been in place so that the business runs without me.
Yeah.
I know that this business, this is fucked up to say. I told this to our team last week because I just got back. My 2-year non-compete just fucking ended at the beginning of March of 2022. Thank you. So I bought an existing junk roll business here in Milwaukee that was started by a buddy of mine. So I bought it. So he's going to transition out, whatever. But, he had put in processes, and I've reinforced these processes that the business does best when I'm not fucking here. That's how it was years ago when I ran the business, and that's how it is to this fucking day.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. If I'm in these 4 walls, I will tell you what to do, and I will tell you how to do it, and you will not grow. No. Right? I'm going to be the limiting factor. So I need to hire people that can see how to execute on my vision. Now there's a lot of shit going, making sure you have the right architect types, making sure you define well-defined processes, make sure you have accountability built in there, whatever. But once you have those fucking things, you have to think from day one as a business owner, that is my plan, or that is what is my goal. And if your goal is just to work in the business and have a fucking job, well, fuck, go work for somebody else, and at least you can get a steady fucking paycheck.
Yeah.
If your goal is to not be the owner someday and step out, well, what the fuck are you doing it for? So, if you're just looking to buy a job, well, then God bless. But that's not why I got into fucking business.
The number one thing I used to hate about my mom working with me, right, was she always told me what I did wrong. And what sucked about that was I wasn't seeing it from her perspective. So before the business, she was in mortgages and stuff. She did all the auditing bullshit. So that was her job, find the discrepancies so they can get fixed. So she would tell me these things. And I remember I'd get so fucking pissed. I'm like, you're always on my shit. Like, you get out there, you do this. And she's like, well, that's a family business for you. But then I started realizing, you know what? She is seeing everything she can from where she is.
Yep.
And I can learn from that because now, like you said, if you're at work, it's worse. Well, it's because you're seeing everything. Now, they're not accustomed to being like, okay, what are we doing wrong first? Like, I like to think backwards. Like, if we're on a big job, especially now, because I have a demolition company, the first thing I ask is, what can go wrong? Before we do anything, what's the worst thing that can happen? And let's backwards track to make sure it doesn't happen. Same thing in any business, right? Well, that's what she was trying to teach me. And then she ultimately did. I mean, shit, I think I was out of the truck half the second year. So 2.5 years I was in the truck. After that, I was out. Yeah. And then it became more of management, right? Like, now I have to manage the crews and make the business, create the business.
No, and that's where, that's one of the challenges I see with the franchise model.
Yeah.
Is that there's not the plan from day one. The other thing you brought up, right? The challenge with the franchise model is they don't tell you what can go wrong. They only tell you all the things that can go right, because their job is to sell you an idea, sell you a dream, sell you a borderline fucking get rich quick 11 o'clock at night goddamn infomercial that we grew up with as fucking kids, right? That's their fucking job. And when you don't fucking know, you don't know what could go wrong. You don't anticipate it. I think, for the franchises that are worth their fucking weight, they vet people out. They don't just sell to fucking everybody. They figure out what can go wrong with different people. They make sure they have the right fucking people to start with. And then they educate the people that they are bringing on. Like, hey, here are all the things that could go wrong. Here are the pitfalls. I want to make sure you're successful from day one. That didn't happen with us. Now, we had the background and intestinal fortitude and financial capacity and family, right? A huge deal. My mom was involved. My dad was involved. My brother was my business partner. We had all these contributing factors that put us in a place to be lucky, right? Luckily, the intersection of preparation and opportunity, right? We were lucky that we survived when it was tough, and then thrived when it wasn't. It was because of what we did.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about, what's that? I got a timer. I got 5 minutes left? Jesus. We got 5 fucking minutes left. The fucking production guys. Jesus. Sorry. That's why you need fucking production guys. So you and I can just sit here and fucking bullshit.
I know.
I like these guys. Whatever. All right. So with that said, and in all honesty, with respect to our listeners and people who are listening, right? Let's talk about it. So let's put a fucking bow on this thing and talk about.
Yeah.
Now that we've been through, we had a franchise, right? Right. You and I both work for the U.S. government.
Yeah.
We've both worked for ourselves. We've worked for corporate. If you work for big corporations, I don't know if you ever worked for big corporations.
The U.S. Army,
like Fortune 500s. What's that?
No.
All right, whatever. But you also work for small businesses, like when you're hauling loads up in the oil fields and shit, right? So we've worked in a range, right? And then we also decided to buy franchises. So for people out there that are considering franchising, or people that are considering, going into this industry, what are the no shit tips and tricks that you need to tell them so that they're not calling us a year after they bought a fucking franchise asking us for a fucking attorney?
Yeah. Well, the number one thing is, if you want to do this industry, you don't need a franchise. Don't do it.
Straight up. D-U-N.
There you go. The number two thing is know your fucking market. Yours.
Yeah.
Not anybody else's. Know what is going on around you. Because if that's probably the second biggest thing is people get in it and then they realize Joe Schmo in Florida is doing things different. Why? Well, because he's in fucking Florida.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time,
but
you have to look at it like, why are you doing it? That's another thing. Why are you doing it? Are you doing it because you have?
And you know what you should do? Call fucking Joe. Don't just envy his ass from a distance.
Yeah.
Call him, understand, and then recognize, does it work in my market? Yes or no. And you can do that cheap.
Never stop learning, because
yeah.
If you ever get to the point where you're like, I'm an expert, there's nothing else I can learn, you're gonna fucking fail. Even to this day, I want to keep learning.
Yeah. I get a kick out of what makes someone a fucking subject matter expert, right? We use that SME, the SME in the military. We use that shit all the time, right? And in the military, there's a no shit. I took this training, I demonstrated this ability, right? So there's an argument in the Army, for example, that tells you you're a fucking subject matter expert. I don't know what makes you a fucking subject matter expert in the real world, the civilian world, in this industry, right? Mm-hmm. You and I have done the fucking thing.
Yeah.
I've been doing junk removal or the waste industry in some capacity or logistics for 15 years. You throw in some time I spent at UPS and waste management. I hauled fuel in Iraq, and I ran convoys here.
You're doing
stateside. I was a fucking load planner for fucking deployment, all that shit, right? It's all logistics, right? You're moving shit from A to B, and there might be a change of possession or change of custody at some fucking point. Whatever a subject matter expert means or doesn't mean, ask fucking people around you.
Yeah.
Ask people that have done it. But like you said, understand why they do it and how they do it. Don't get fucking fixated at the what. Start with the what. All right, hey, what are you doing? That's working. Cool. How do you do it? You got to challenge yourself, right? How? Can I also do it that way? Does that work for me? Right? And then why? Mm-hmm. Well, what the fuck happens in Florida and California is different than happens in New York and Wisconsin. And if the why doesn't work, well then, great. You'll learn something. Don't get discouraged. Maybe you can figure out a way to use something they did or how they do something in your own fucking market, but don't get fixated on the shit that they're doing.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, if you're afraid to ask questions and you're afraid to collaborate, then you're at fault. And that's the other biggest thing is, I don't know how many times I'd call and ask you the dumbest question if I had it. And it's because it's like, why not?
Yeah, why not?
I mean, like the worst he could do is laugh and then tell me the fucking answer.
And I have a client I coach out of Tennessee called Awesome Rachel Demo Company, and Rachel's husband. I work mostly with Rachel 70% of the time, and her husband Rick. I work with him about 30% of the time. He's like, "Hey Andy, how do you turn down a house?" I said, "I called Casey," and he laughed. He was like, "All right, I figured that was the answer," but that was it. I called Casey. That's how I tear a house down.
Yeah.
Casey will fly up to Wisconsin and tear houses down for me, but that was it.
Yeah.
No fucking shame. And
no.
He fucking laughed. I laughed. We had a good time. And then you got the opportunity to share your knowledge with him.
Well, that's the thing
is, key.
And that's what success looks like. Now, one person is ever on their own, and if they tell you they have, they're lying.
No, this is And this right here, what we're doing now, this is what I consider to be success. We've put ourselves in a position from a time and money perspective where we can now invest our money and share our time to give to others without an expectation of return.
Yeah.
The only limitations, right?
The only limitations are the producers over there.
Yeah, fucking producers. They're laughing. They're right there. But let's not hold on real quick, just for shits and giggles. Guys, come on over here. Just let's not pretend like there's this big fucking crew of production. This is we'll introduce the crew as it sits. This is my boy Xavier. We've been shooting together.
I'm the dirty one.
He's the dirty one. So Xavier and I have been shooting for 2 years.
It's going 2 years.
2 years on and off. Taylor,
year and a half.
Taylor here. Stick his in here. He's one of the OG. More there.
There it is.
So
he's
one of the OG. You started podcasting when?
2006.
2006. Before some people listening weren't even probably fucking born. I know. 2006 and like the AOL days. I feel like AOL was still a thing back then, right? So that's it. I was like, hey, but here's the thing too. Like Casey, you and I talked like 3 months ago. We're like, hey, let's do a podcast. I'm like, all right, cool, let's do that. But my goal is to sit here and just talk. I just want to talk. I don't want to fucking do anything. And you said the same thing. So we figure out how to, from a time and money standpoint, figure this out. Like, how can we sit here and bullshit on a Monday night, press some buttons, and share it with the fucking world?
Yeah,
right. That's our version of success.
But this is also fun. Like, that's the thing is, if you don't ever ask me anything, you'll never know any answers. But if you try, I promise you, I will never be like, I don't fucking know. Figure it out.
Oh.
I'll be like, you know what? That's a question for Andy. Maybe call him and ask him. Or I'd be like, let's figure this shit out together. Now I'm very interested in how you do that. And that's literally how I got into demolition. I was just like, I wonder, what's it like to knock down a house? So I started looking and researching, and then boom, now I got like a lot of houses under my belt.
There you go. Let's do that. Let's make next episode about why the fuck do you do what you do?
Yeah.
Right? It's all about the passion part. All right, so there's your fucking teaser. See? We didn't have to have an agenda today.
Yeah.
Casey, appreciate it. And for everybody out there, it's real simple. Find us on LinkedIn. If you can find my phone number on LinkedIn under the contact info, you can call me. That's how you can get a hold of me. That's just simple, right? You don't have to fucking follow me. No fucking hashtags. None of this bullshit.
Yeah.
Like if you have the fucking wherewithal and the cojones and whatever to fucking shoot me a text or call me, I will pick up my phone 100% of the time.
Yeah, don't call me. Just shoot me a text.
Shoot Casey a text. He's fucking fancy like that. He might be up in a fucking machine. All right, all right, Casey, appreciate it. To our listeners, appreciate you guys. And we're looking forward to continuing to putting out some amazing content here on the Trash Talk Podcast.